got love for you, man. You know what I'm saying?
What are we talking about? You know, I'm not here to start any trouble.
I'm only going to say nice things about you from now on. I think you're handsome, and I think you're a wonderful host.
I'm fat and I'm overweight.
Just don't say anything silly.
I was waiting for you to say that.
I'm not laughing about it. You think this is funny? I take it serious.
You know, I don't want y'all to take anything out of context that I'm saying.
He's very funny. He likes to joke around a lot.
As a personality and as an entertainer, yes.
This is going to be really quick. I'm not taking any questions.
Go ahead and get comfortable. I'm going to talk for a little bit.
You're listening to Cabbie Presents, the podcast.
Welcome to another episode. Leaving the winter and soon to be entering the spring, the marvelous thing. Best Sports Month is upon us because the best tournament in sports is soon to begin. The NCAA March Madness Tournament. It's not open to debate. March is the best. That is the best tournament. Playoff races form in the NBA and the NHL, and baseball is about to start. It's all about March. October's nice. March is where it's at. I'm your host, Cabbie Richards. On Twitter, it's at @TheRealCabbie, all one word, and Cabbie is spelled C-A-B-B-I-E. Same thing on Instagram, and Facebook is where I have a bunch of shareables, but you've got to type in the government name. So it's Cabral Richards is the government name for those who don't know, and that's C-A-B-R-A-L Richards. Check me out on Facebook. Thank you to the new subscribers of the podcast and the recent comments. If you're new to this show, you're about to listen to two of the best storytellers I've encountered in 15 years of working in the industry. Both are unique in their own way, and both had me captivated, and I'm confident you will be too. So recently I took a trip to Los Angeles to interview Tom Arnold at his home. We get there right on time. His assistant, we found out later, is from Toronto and formerly Russell Peters' assistant. So immediately there's a connection, and we small talk about living in Los Angeles and where we're staying. We stay at a spot in West Hollywood, and the inevitable discussion about In-N-Out Burger and its brilliance. So Tom's got two Mercedes in the driveway and like a contemporarily designed place. Like everything is very chic. It's very, it's like everything was bought out of a magazine. It's got cool art. It's got expensive rugs, nice artifacts on the tables. And there's like a photo museum in the living room behind where we conduct the interview for TV, which has a bar. And this would be the area he entertains people, if not the backyard by the pool. So Tom Arnold is up in the Hollywood Hills, over in Beverly Hills, not too far from Brentwood and the UCLA campus. Across from his place, there's a giant palace. Like, okay, so there's like a valley in between his place and this compound, which was probably owned by the guy that invented the color green. Like, it's massive. So it's on the top of this ledge overlooking the entire city. Anyway, it's either like depressing or motivating to look at that monstrosity every morning. Back to Tom Arnold. He arrives downstairs to greet us. He's super nice. He's fresh from the shower, sweating a little bit in his white tee, and he apologizes for not having his gym to show us. Okay, so his wife is 8 months pregnant. She may have even had her baby by the time you're hearing this. And the gym had to go in place of the baby's arrival, if I can remember correctly. Anyway, we cover a bunch of topics, as you'll hear at the beginning. He calls me Cabbie, which, it's not the first time my name has been messed up, and it won't be the last. And I didn't have the heart to correct him. Here's our conversation.
If it's going to be an interview, I'm going to conduct it. So I'll answer my own questions, ask myself the questions, then give y'all the answers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man to my left has spent the better part of his professional career adding the funny in television and movies, and also for the better part of a decade, co-hosted the best damn sports show, period. This.
How are you, Cabbie?
It's Tom Arnold.
Good to see you, man.
Congratulations on being pregnant.
Thank you.
How's your whole stomach? How's the stomach?
It's huge. And I got to tell you, as you men know, when you get pregnant, it is game on for the food. Now, my wife's a very conscious eater, not a big meat eater like me, not a crazy eater. Now she has pancakes at 1 a.m, and she'll say, "You want pancakes at 1 a.m?" I'm like, "Heck yes, I want pancakes at 1 a.m."
So it's a green light for you.
It's a green light, and it's also she doesn't eat it all. I eat mine, and then I get to eat hers. But she's in the 8th month, so she's getting a little selfish right now. She's eating her own stuff, but and I'll probably lose weight that way. But I'm loving it. I'm an older guy. This is my first child, and I did have to give up my gym upstairs, which I wish we were in. I had an amazing gym, all kinds of memorabilia from every hockey thing you can imagine. Huge gym of workout equipment that I never used. I never used it.
Do you ever have like Wayne Gretzky come check out your gym?
I have Wayne Gretzky. He's been over.
Really?
Yeah, I think. Yeah. No, Wayne's a really good guy. I know him well. I know these guys. I love the hockey guys because they are the best. If you consider different sports, like the hardest sport is hockey, in my opinion, and they're the nicest guys. And then you go hockey, football, baseball, and then basketball up here. Those guys, they can be jerks because their job is easier.
Wait, their job's easier
than hockey?
Than baseball?
Yeah,
they don't even
it's
break a
easier
sweat in baseball.
No, the whole life of a hockey player.
Ask Matt Kemp if he sweats.
Let me tell you something. I played Little League baseball. That's where you start when you're little.
Yes.
But I never played in Saskatoon in 30 below outside on a fishing pond. And that's what these guys do. They start out young. Their whole life span is harder.
You know how many people you just won over?
No. They're also the
Saskatchewan.
craziest. If you do a charity event, you should do this with hockey players. You will have stories for the rest of your life.
That's
stuff
true.
You will not believe happened in front of you. Sure, they raise a lot of money. They're amazingly generous, but they do stuff that you can't even imagine.
So Tom, if your child expresses an interest in sports,
right,
how are you going to resist the temptation to inject your competitiveness in that child's athletic endeavors?
Well, the first thing is, I'm a college sports is huge here.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm an Iowa Hawkeye. That is who I was when I went to the games of my grandpa when I was 4. That's part of my soul. And I would hope that my son would be a Hawkeye. That'll be the most pressure I'll put on him. I have my teams here and there, the Cubs and the New York Giants and stuff, and I'll let that, he doesn't have to be a Laker fan, but I think I want him to be an Iowa Hawkeye.
How are you going to resist being that dad?
Well,
where you're just like, you push him very hard,
right,
or you're like the stats monster. Like
well,
you're up there with the pad. Remember, like baseball games is the dude with the box
I've seen those guys.
The manual box scores.
Yeah. I'll be 90 years old when he's playing sports. So, he has a. But I love to coach. I love one of the greatest things I ever did. I was a girls softball coach when I was younger, and that was the first time I ever got any self-esteem. I was 12 or 13, and my neighbor said, "Hey, Barney Winger's like, you want to coach the girls?" And my sister was on the team, but I thought that'd be great. And we won a little trophy. And honest to God, that changed my life. I said, there's something I could do here. And we won, and it was an amazing experience. I got the picture upstairs. I'll give you a close-up for you. It's probably storage. What am I saying? Well, everything's in storage here.
I like that the 12-year-old girls gave you self-esteem.
They really did.
Is it because they respected you? Or
It's just because I had a shirt. I had the team shirt on. You put the team shirt and the team hat, and you get respect right away. That was an amazing experience.
Okay, you mentioned a few sports. When I was reading your Twitter feed recently. I know you went to the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and you and Chris Rose had your own little show where no one got to see except you guys.
Right, but the blackout happened. Here's what happened. When the blackout happened, I was sitting down there, and it was about the best time of the game to me. Because up to that point, the game was like, my team's not playing in the game. This is a blowout. I want to get out of here. Then the blackout happens. So they take us, they were sitting down at the bottom, and they take us under the stadium, some other actors and people in your business. And so we go into this big room, and there's no TV on because there's no power, and the lights are very dim. And we actually got to talk to each other and hang out. And people, the fans that came in there, we got to spend some quality time. It was a great moment. That we did not expect to have happen because the Super Bowl is so go.
Yeah.
So I got to see Chris Rose. I got to see a whole bunch of athletes. There's a guy.
Did Beyonce find her way down there?
Beyonce was down close. I'm telling you, you can get close to people once you're down there in the caverns. It was, but we had one guy, Mark Burnett. He's a big producer here.
Of course,
he does all these shows.
Series.
Right. He came up to me. I was taking a picture with a person, and he came up and goes, "Come here. That's the way out, that tunnel right there." Because he was thinking, he's Mark Burnett, he's a survivor. He thinks this could be a bad, some kind of terrorist thing. That's the time. He was totally serious. He only told me, he didn't tell the other actors. So I felt kind of bad about that for them. But I would have gone without them. But it was a great moment.
At the height of your fame, how often would you have to reach into that right pocket to pay for anything at a sporting event?
Well, I tip. You always got to tip. I don't care who you are. And I'm telling this to athletes, you got to tip because I see some that don't.
Who doesn't tip?
They tip at strip clubs. Hey, it's making a race. You got to tip your guy to park in your car. The security guy, like a security guy who's a volunteer at the Super Bowl, who's a Marine, and he volunteered. This guy that was with us, he took us everywhere we wanted to go. By the way, that's why a guy with a yellow plastic jacket on. It says security. You get with him.
He has
you
all
could
the
go
power.
anywhere you want. It doesn't even matter. So you give him a little something because this kid, he comes over from Mississippi to work all night for the Super Bowl. You give him a little something, and that's what you do. So, I didn't pay for my Super Bowl tickets. Thanks, CMT. I didn't, I didn't pay for my flight down there. But once you're there in a city, you gotta be generous.
So there was a stretch of your life for like 11 years. You didn't pay for anything. You just tipped people.
Well, I tip. You
didn't even buy your clothes.
Well, when I had the sports show, that was the best job I'll ever have because I love sports. I would have done that for free, and yet they paid me millions of dollars to do it. And so you get into all these games, you get to know these athletes. You have these experiences that when you're a kid, and you especially the heroes, the legends.
Right.
All of a sudden you're sitting next to them, and it is a crazy. I'm next to Willie Mays one day.
Awesome.
And I'm next to, all these guys I grew up. I'm like, how could this be happening? I wish my grandpa could see me. So that was a real pleasure. You didn't have to pay for anything.
Who did you become closest with?
Well, I got to know, Gretzky I know, and everybody around here knows, and we've spent time together. He's a great guy. He does a lot of charity stuff. There's David Wells became a really good friend. I was in his wedding. He was a baseball pitcher.
Right.
He's
pitcher perfect game.
Yeah,
against
perfect game.
I think the Twins. I think.
Yeah. And, you get to know certain guys, and they're on these championship teams. And
you guys have similar body types.
Yeah, we have. I'm fatter than him. It's hard to believe. But he has if you've seen him naked, which I have, it's not that bad of a body. He just looks bad with clothes on. And that's the thing. But, you get to meet a guy like Derek Jeter. Let me tell you something. Derek Jeter is the nicest athlete ever. He is the best. He is... and I mean this sincerely. I love Derek Jeter.
Like man crush Derek Jeter?
Absolutely. Beyond that, he's perfect. He's such a good human being. He's the guy that when you walk into Yankee Stadium, we're like, Tom, don't talk to Derek. And then he gets up off the ground and shakes your hand. And
he floats.
It's amazing. Yeah, David Beckham is also like that. He gave me the shirt off his back at a soccer game in this is like after I had the sports show, so it was amazing.
So wait, okay, so now there's the theme of like male nudity.
Right.
There's David Wells.
Well, let me tell you about male nudity.
There's the antidote to David Wells.
Let me tell you about male nudity, my friend. You go into a locker room, NFL, and you will be ashamed to ever present yourself nude. These guys are so confident. They walk into the shower as a group and come out completely naked, and they'll talk to you. And you see things that you did not think were possible. You see things with elbows that shouldn't have elbows. And it just is like, oh my gosh, I will never stand at a urinal with this human being ever because I am so embarrassed. So, but they have pride, and that's the thing. They have pride for their bodies. They have respect, and they have confidence. And I have none of those things.
What was this? How did David Beckham give you the shirt off of his back?
I was in the tunnel, and it's the first. Oh boy, get out of here! It was the first. This is my wife's dog. I just want to make very clear. I have a pit bull outside. No, it was a giant stadium. They were playing a friendly against somebody, and as he came off, everybody's screaming at him. And I said, "Can I?"
Did you scream the loudest? Or
I was kind of. I get a little shy when they're up close, and I said, "Can I have your shirt?" And he gave it. And I said, "Would you like mine?" And he said, "No, no, I would not," because mine was actually sweatier than his, and he played 90 minutes. But you get in these positions, and that's the great thing about your job. You these fantastic people who've had these fantastic careers, and athletes have the best of them. They have a magic that I did shows where I sat next to athletes and they were they communicated and did stuff. But when it's game on, when it's Michael Irvin and you're playing catch or you're playing a game and there might be a bet involved, he's going to beat you. He's going to knock you on your butt on the cement and beat you. They have a magic and it turns on like that. You think to yourself, oh my gosh, look at this guy. We're about the same size. Then there's some kind of competition and it's over because they have something that we don't have.
Now, athletes over the past, like every generation, athletes get bigger, stronger, and faster.
Right.
And, you know, and you look at, okay, so that's athletes. And then in some of the actors, you look at like The Rock, who was a tank.
Right.
And you worked with Arnold Schwarzenegger,
right.
you know.
I'll tell you a story about The Rock. When I went to Iowa, he played on Miami and college, and they came to play Iowa, and they were kicking our butts. And the guy in front of me, Woody, a buddy of mine, says, I say to him at some point, because their mascot is called an ibis. Well, I'm not sure what it is. It's supposed to be it's a giant bird, I think, of some sort. And they were mocking us. The ibis was mocking Herky, our mascot. And I said to Woody, I will give you $1,000 if you go out and tackle that mascot. and he started getting frightened. He goes, will you bail me out of jail? I go, 100%. And so this is a famous thing. This happened on ESPN. He ran out on the air and tackled their mascot, and the cheerleaders beat him up. And they hauled him away. He had handcuffs on, and Rock was in that game. And The Rock told me, Dwayne Johnson, that later they were teasing the mascot at practice, and one of their football players clipped him, and it tore out his knee for the rest of the year.
The mascot or the player?
Yeah, the mascot.
Oh my
God. Don't worry, it was just a mascot. It was just a human being. But, you know, those little, and then it turned out he was The Rock, it turned out.
So great story, by the way.
Great story. Long.
No, but it was great. It's
yeah,
great. Yeah. So The Rock is huge. You worked with Arnold, who was huge.
Huge.
And these athletes are just getting bigger and bigger. Have you ever been tempted to go on like a cycle of HGH or something? Because there's a different standard for actors than there are athletes.
I would love that if it worked. Here's the problem. And I did try a little bit of that, human growth. I swear, because everybody,
in real life,
people in this town were doing that maybe 8 years ago. It was a new thing. Oh, it'll make you younger. You'll feel like more, you know. But the problem, the guys that were doing it successfully, they went on a diet. I ate like crazy. So whatever it did to me, I still had all this fat. I want you to try it for about 3 months or whatever. Not like, you know, the super guys try it. But, you know, Arnold, here's a guy that sees us every day. Still, he's 65 years old. He gets up at 5 a.m., does his workout, 30 minutes on the bike, exactly like a machine, goes through the circuit training. And that's who he is. He's not as big as he used to be, obviously. But if you see Arnold naked, you go, that's a good-looking 65-year-old man. He'd be good-looking for 40, you know? Maybe not 35, but, you know, he dyes his hair and everything, but he's still manly. Yeah.
Okay, so how wild is the UK? You got to go to Super Bowl 47 courtesy of CMT.
Right.
And your show is Big Fat Redneck.
My Big Redneck Vacation.
My Big Redneck Vacation.
Just started in Canada. We're very proud.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, we have CMT in Canada.
Yeah, I know you do. I know you do. We're very excited about that.
So how wild does it get with like the environments that you go to?
Well, it gets not as wild because I do it in a studio in Hollywood. Great. I do a green screen thing. I did participate, you know, a little bit. What's nice about this family is, I don't know if you do have rednecks up there. I know you don't believe this, but you do.
Yeah, they're in the middle of our country.
But it's the lifestyle. You know, I just did some shows in Winnipeg, and you get out there, Calgary. I mean, come on.
Come on.
Yeah,
Alberta.
You been to the Stampede?
Yeah, Have you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Such a
Those
good
guys
time.
are athletes, too. Let me tell you something. When they're racing those wagons, that is better than NASCAR. Absolutely. It's riskier, takes more skill. But no, they get, you know, rednecks it's a lifestyle. They're sports fans. They like outdoor stuff. You know, they're very family oriented, and so we take this family.
Like beer.
And they love beer. They love beer, and so we take them from Louisiana. They've never been out of there, and then we put them in. And this year up there, they're in the Hamptons. We put this family of 14 to live in the Hamptons. And it's a sociological experiment in a weird way, because there's a bunch of weirdos in the Hamptons. You know, the rich Americans, very weird. A lot of Canadians come down there too, by the way. And that you put these rednecks in there, and then they end up bonding in ways you couldn't imagine. And that's what life's about. That's what sports does. When I'm at a airport, people are yelling, whatever. But somebody yells, hey, are the Cubs going to win this year? I'll stop and talk to them because I know they're a Cub fan. And that's a bond that man to man, woman to man that we have that goes beyond where we live or what our lifestyle is. If someone says, you know, are the Kings going to come back? I say, I hope so. But listen, we got the Stanley Cup and we get to keep it all year.
That's right.
So we're still in honeymoon mode here in Los Angeles.
That's right.
And so those things, when you can share moments with people, strangers, that's what sports does.
We're going to call this segment Tom Arnold sports advice.
Okay, all right, let's do it.
Number one, what is the rule on jerseys? Can you wear them outside of arenas or only at home? What's the rule on jerseys?
My rule on jerseys is only in the home. I prefer them on the wall. When I was younger, when I got my first Iowa jersey, I wore that all the time. And now that I know the guys, you go around and you have Luc Robitaille's jersey on, and there's Luc Robitaille talking to you, and his wife, and his kids, and it's weird, But I gotta say, I love it. I love it when I'm in a game and I see a bunch of dudes, 50-year-old guys with 22-year-old guys' jerseys on. There's something about it. But and here's the rule. Here's another rule. The classics, the legends. You could always wear the legends. Okay? Always. But the guys that are playing at the time, that's a younger man's game wearing those jerseys. That's a teenager. That's a preteen. They get to wear the jerseys of the players playing, but the old men get to wear the legends.
How does one successfully bargain with a scalper? Not that you've had to in your life.
No. I will say this: at the Super Bowl, I did have tickets. Thank you, CMT. And we had an opportunity from another network to get the best tickets, the 50-yard line. These were like 30, 20. And so somebody said they would buy my original ones, which legally I don't think I could sell. But I traded those $950 a piece ones for the $1,250 a piece, because I made these guys pay $2,500 for these two, and they just took that and gave that money to hypothetical ESPN. but bargaining with those guys, it's fun. They're hilarious guys. A lot of them are very good personalities, the ticket scalpers. Some of them are just, degenerates too. But they're all around. I see them every year at the Super Bowl. I know who the guys are, and they'll wheel and deal with you a little bit. But I have to say this about the Super Bowl. I don't care who you are. It's the festivities leading up to it. If it's not your team in the Super Bowl and you've got these $1,250 tickets and you see a ticket broker, you say to yourself, what did you get for these? The guy's like $5,000 a piece. You're like, so I could get $10,000 for these free tickets that I was given? He's like, yeah. And you start thinking, if I get caught? Because here's the problem. When you get those tickets given to you, they know where you're sitting.
Yeah, and
you're sitting next to the president of the network or something, and there's some yahoo in there. So it's not something I can do anymore.
What is the oldest a person can be to ask for an autograph?
Well, here's the thing.
What's the limit?
Here is the thing. It's unlimited if you're asking for your grandchild, or you're asking for somebody, or you want it for your charity so you can auction it off.
Okay.
Now, it's not something I would do, but when I was younger, let me tell you a story. There was a guy named Vida Blue who pitched for the Oakland A's. He was the MVP and Cy Young, the only pitcher to have done that at that time. I live in Atomo, Iowa, a farm community. I went to the Holiday Inn one day, and Vida Blue was sitting there. This is while he was playing. And I couldn't believe it. He was buying some farmland by where I lived. And I went up to him, and I was scared to death. And I went up to him, and he signed an autograph, and he was so nice that he kind of quizzed me on his career to see if I knew who he was. And man, that changed me. And I said to myself, if I ever get famous or successful, I'm going to be as gracious as Vida Blue was to me. Because man, I had that on my wall, and that meant something. When guys get older, your age, my age, those things don't mean as much. But, you go upstairs and, you see Sandy Koufax sign something. You see every Yankee when they won 1998. I've got every Yankee. You see a ball from David Wells' perfect game. Those things, because there's a personal connection. If you know the person, if you were there for this thing, if it means something to you personally, then you can have it up there. You can ask for an autograph. But otherwise, you have to pretend it's for your charity or your grandkid or whatever.
So if you meet Joe Montana and you're like, hey,
I have played catch with Joe Montana, played football. I have his jersey from Notre Dame. I saw Joe Montana over the holidays in Maui, and we had a really nice talk about how Notre Dame was doing and how they treated his son and etc. Stuff I can't say on TV now that I think about it. But I love that guy. And you get to know these guys because they're doing other kinds of careers. But he's still Joe Montana. And when he walked, I remember everything about him the second I see him, and not that he's just a human being.
He's a legend. He's on the Mount Rushmore. And the last one is, how does Tom Arnold pick his March Madness bracket?
Well, the first thing I do, and this is stupid, is I go with my heart. So any Iowa connection to any team, I'm picking them as many times, and then I screw up my whole bracket. The Big Ten this year. That is also that's my conference.
Indiana State.
It's going to be ugly. We have a lot of great teams, and it's however they divide the teams up. The number one seeds. They can honestly have 3 Big Ten teams as number one seed, in my opinion, and that gives me a chance to play along more. But you see who's hot at the end of the year. That just like at the Super Bowl, it's who's hot. It's not who has the best record. It's who's getting into their groove.
But then there's also the science about the underdogs, like that 12 over a 5 seed, and like
right. I love that for rooting. I will figure out a way to root. I could go to a high school game, a junior high game, and figure out a way to root. I'm that kind of fan. Well, what is the deal here? Do they have a personal story? Hey, there's fat kids on this team. I root for them. I always root for the fat kids, and it's a personal thing. But I love those upsets. I love if a 16 beat a 1. I mean, that would be amazing. But then you get down to business towards the end of your bracket because you want the best team to win.
Of course.
But there's nothing. Sports is so great. It's the only thing in life where there is a beginning, middle, and end. And there's rules. And when you start, anything can happen. And you know what? Sometimes anything does happen. And it's crazy. And you have the worst day. When I worked at a meatpacking plant for 3 years, I came home and it was a horrible job and it was tough, but I put on sports and these amazing things would happen and they'd stick with me. And the next day at the plant, we talk about that as we're boning hams or we're, doing all these horrible jobs we used to do. But I tell you what, sport is the best drug in the world. It is my favorite drug. I recommend it. It's wonderful. And it can change it affects the quality of my life, which is ridiculous. That a game or something can affect your but it does. And one thing, I had Jimmy Carter, the former president of the United States, on the sports show, and he told me that while he was president, if Atlanta lost, the Braves, it messed up his day in the Oval Office. It really did. And that's a real sports fan.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. We mentioned anything is possible, and I'm sure that as a young kid in Iowa, you never thought you could get to the heights you did, but you did.
No.
So for this kid from Toronto, I hope that at some point I could reach the same heights that you did.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Very much for having us.
We got a lot of Toronto people down here in Hollywood. I mean, we got a lot. So slow down, man. Stick with what you got.
Everybody loves Canadians, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
The next day after meeting Tom Arnold, we shot a segment with the Los Angeles Kings, and then we went to Larry King's house. Yes, that's correct. We went to his home. Again, we were in Beverly Hills on a beautiful street with big houses. And as Tom Arnold lived in the hills, Larry lived in a more traditional neighborhood lined with picturesque palm trees. And Larry had been interviewed on Off the Record with Michael Landsberg in the past, so that's how my producer Dave Cricks had the contact info with his publicist. So we get there a little early and we buzz the doorbell, and his assistant / publicist, Ginger, tells us to enter because the door is open. So like really rich people, they leave their doors open. There are 2 staircases rounding the front foyer upstairs, like that scene from The Matrix Reloaded. And there's like a giant marble table in the front foyer as we enter with photos on his family. To the right, there's an Emmy Award in another room just on a table. I'm in Larry King's house. Ginger, whose real name I think is Veronica or Victoria or something, if I can remember correctly, lovely lady, tells us we can set up in what I call the Larry King Museum. In this room are awards, memorabilia, letters, photos, all of his working days in radio and television on one side, including a personalized letter from Frank Sinatra, who was extremely complimentary in this letter. Now, on the other side are shelves of sports memorabilia. There's signed baseballs, a couple of bats. There's a seat from Dodger Stadium, a Chris Paul signed sneaker, a bunch of photos, and the prized possession is a pair of gloves signed by Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time. So we set up in the room and await Larry's arrival from picking up his sons from school. So in he walks and ready to go after about 20 minutes since we got there. He's shorter than I thought, but his voice booms. He's nice, but he's ready to roll. Like, he wants to get this thing going. So here, for your audio entertainment, my conversation with Larry King in the Larry King Museum.
If it's going to be an interview, I'm going to conduct it. So I'll answer my own questions, ask myself the questions, then give y'all the answers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man to my right has been teaching a master class in the art of interviewing for decades. To his Yoda, I am a young Jedi. I am Luke.
Bless you, Cabbie.
Thank you, sir. This is Larry King, and welcome to Cabbie Presents.
Thank you, Cabbie.
My pleasure. You make your interview subjects so comfortable on camera, like it's as though we're having a conversation here in this wonderful room. Has it always been like that? Have you always had this ability?
I've always had that. I grew up with it. I could never explain it, Cabbie, but you have to have curiosity, and I've had that since when I was a kid. If we would go to Ebbets Field, Dodger games,
right,
all my friends wanted autographs. I never wanted an autograph. I just wanted to ask questions. The players would come out. Why'd they bunt? Why'd they do this? Why'd you do that? I remember so I grew up asking questions. Why did the bus driver want to drive a bus? I was a why person. I've always been the kind of person you don't want to sit next to on an airplane. That's just the way I am.
Are you like that now?
I've always been, like, I pick up my boys at school. What happened today in school? Why'd you do that? Why are you going here? It's insatiable. I don't know if you could teach this. A lot of it's inborn, but I've had the ability to relax people. I don't know what that is. I sort of make the camera disappear. One thing is, I don't ask questions that begin with I. The guest counts. I'm interested. They really know I'm interested in them because I really am. Therefore, you break inhibitions down that way. I don't have an agenda. I'm not there to pin them against the wall.
Right.
In other words, if, let's say I'm interviewing A-Rod today, and I interviewed him a couple years ago, but let's say I'm interviewing today. The worst question to begin with is, do you take drugs? And the reason that's a bad question is, one, puts him on a defensive. Two, you could answer it yes or no, because you began with did.
Of course.
You just say no, right? Instead, you go into completely other things. How's the hip? How do you feel? You're leading up to other things. What do you think of all this drug thing? What's your opinion? You see, that's simply put, you're not accusing him of anything, but you're drawing him out. I don't know what it is, but and I like people. You gotta like people. And it's not about me, so I don't use the word I.
In my response to that, I feel like I could just lay on this chaise and then just tell you everything about being
I can't tell other people how to do it. Mike Wallace was a dear friend, and he did a piece on me for 60 Minutes. Mike worked totally prepared, and he totally had an agenda, but he was great at what he did. So the advice I give to people is advice given to me years ago by great broadcast icons, Red Barber, Dodger Baseball, and Arthur Godfrey, great broadcasters, always said, the secret of this business is there's no secret, which is be yourself. Whatever works for you, you do that. You can't be someone else. So if you're a young kid want to be an interviewer, don't be Larry King, be you. I'm me, you be you. Whatever works for you.
Will do, sir. And when you're interviewing, say, like a famous politician or an entertainer or an athlete, when you're in conversation with those people from different fields, is the way that you speak to them or the way that conversation goes, is it different for those people?
All of them is who, what, where, when, why.
So whether
That's
it's
all interviews ever done, whether you're the mayor, president, shortstop, plumber, who, what, where, when, why. You're with the president? What's it like to be president? What's it like to get up in this White House where Lincoln slept? Plumber. What is the gratification? What gratifies you? What are the rewards? Plumbing. I bring that up because when I first started, I was doing a show in a restaurant where people just walked in. Jimmy Hoffa came in one day, Bobby Darin. But one day a plumber came in, and I interviewed a plumber for 45 minutes.
Wow.
And I learned fascinating things. Like, now this is 53 years ago. And I remember him telling me, before you buy a house, call a plumber in.
Really?
And have the plumber look at the plumbing. Because the plumbing is the key to a house. You got bad plumbing, you're going to have terrible days ahead. And he was fascinated because when he looked under the sink, he looked at the whole house as a total and how that related to it. So there's rewards in everything. But you have to be curious.
And when, say you interview, I don't know how you do this, but if you're interviewing, you mentioned Alex Rodriguez, or say it's a Michael Jordan, or even it's Muhammad Ali, someone that the public knows a lot about, how are you able to find out things that we don't know?
By just being curious. By those that I interviewed Ali when he first won the Olympic gold medal in light heavyweight in Rome. I interviewed him when he was Cassius. I interviewed him right after he became Muhammad Ali. Michael Jordan, I not only interviewed him a few times, I was there when he left to go play baseball. And I unveiled his statue at the United Center in Chicago. But basically, it's still, we all know Michael Jordan is, I spent a day at LeBron James' house.
Right, I remember that. And you guys were playing in his backyard.
Yeah, I played a little basketball. But, so we know a lot about LeBron James, but there's other things you may not know. Like, I'll give you an example of Michael Jordan. Were you always good?
Just that.
Yeah.
Were you always good?
He was cut in high school.
Right.
Cut by his, I didn't know that. He was cut by his junior high school team.
Yeah, in grade 9 at Laney High.
But I didn't know that. But then he told the story of what he was like as cut. Why do you want to play baseball? Because his father wanted him to play baseball. If you started when you were 18 or 17, how good do you think you'd have been at another sport? See, it's the same. The great Isaac Stern was a great violinist. I asked him, would you have been good if it was a piano? He said, yeah. Music comes from the heart. What instrument you choose is incidental.
Is there something that you found out about LeBron James, that being curious, that that we may not have known? I remember the interview. I don't remember everything.
I was amazed at how really a regular guy he is. When he made that mistake of saying, I'm going to something, that was one mistake in his life. He's overcome that very well. And I knew he would, because what I discovered about him is a genuineness. He is a really genuine guy. And the people around him are people who grew up with him. That's a wonderful trait, because the people around him, to them, he's not LeBron James. He's LeBron.
Right.
Hey, want to go have a soda? He's LeBron. And I've been that way all my life. My friends that I hang out with are friends I grew up with. And I think that, so there's a lot there's a lot in a person. LeBron James knows how good he is, appreciates how good his teammates are, and cares about the other guy. Like those feelings he has for those kids in Akron, it's genuine.
Mm. You mentioned Michael Jordan, and a lot of people compare LeBron to Michael Jordan because
That's a big dispute. All today I listened to sports talk radio. That's all they were talking about. And the problem with that is, one, they never played against each other. So all we're doing is comparing by what we saw and our personal relationship with them. Like, I grew up in Brooklyn. Stan Musial was the best baseball hitter I ever saw. He creamed us, right? But my friend Herbie used to go to Yankee Stadium and thought Ted Williams was better. So it comes from our perception. Michael Jordan won 6 titles, right? But he played with the Bulls all the time. And the Bulls got better as he progressed, and they got better players. Well, LeBron played in Cleveland. Well, he didn't have good people around him until he got to Miami. Right. So you have to withhold judgment. LeBron can do everything well, all 5 things well. So I look at him with amazement, and I think eventually he will break everything ever broken. He will break. One guy on the radio called in today, I forgot the show, and said, look at how strong LeBron is, how tough he is. He has to take steroids, right?
Oh, he went that way with it. Okay,
yeah, so
all right.
And the host said a correct thing. a steroid, the most powerful steroid in the world, can't make the ball go in the hoop.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Can't put the ball in the hoop. Might make you stronger. Can't put the ball in the hoop. So basketball, well, they had steroid situations, maybe 3 in the history of the NBA. Yeah. It won't make you better.
Right.
So I you know, they look, but it was interesting. The caller brought up that he had to look at his strength. Because why steroids wouldn't help you. So I'm fascinated with the reason I love sports so much is, and athletes. I have great appreciation for athletes because they face winning and losing. I don't face that. You don't face that. They win. And when we wake up in the morning, we don't know who's going to win. That's why I love sports. I don't know who's going to win tonight. I'm a Clipper fan. They're playing Houston. I don't know if they're going to win. So, and the athlete, though, he looks up, and the final score was 107 to 102. There is a scoreboard. Here's what I did. I shot 8. It's there. I love horse racing. Could win by a nose. Still, there's the finish line. Still won. I don't face winning and losing every day. And athletes' careers end when most careers begin. Right. Really, people, you're starting out in life and you're starting to make it in business. When you're 35, 37, things start to hit. You're ready to quit. Great title for a book called When the Cheering Stops. I was sitting with Joe Namath a couple of years ago, and we were at a restaurant in New York. People don't rush to your table anymore. Think about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Your fame is yesterday.
Right.
What'd you do today?
Me,
anybody.
Sorry.
If Michael Jordan and LeBron James walked into a room today, more people would go to LeBron James.
You think so?
Of course.
The Michael Jordan?
He's playing.
But it's Michael Jordan. He's playing. There, it's Michael Jordan.
He's playing. I mean, your attraction would be to, that was Michael Jordan, would say, LeBron James. My God. Because you saw him last night. And kids would, of course, go to him first.
Of course. You mentioned how in interviews you don't come with an agenda.
Uh-huh. Never did.
And you've interviewed probably thousands of people.
55,000. They asked him. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. How do you know when somebody's lying, though?
You don't. You do sometimes. You think it's obvious. I always let the audience make their own judgment. I'm not judgmental. I was there to just learn, and best I can to learn. But I wasn't in the room.
When whatever happened.
So if enough evidence points to something, you can point out the evidence that points to something. I wasn't there. You know, you could, let's say O.J. We all knew what happened to O.J. So you interview O.J., right? And he said, well, I didn't do it. I was on a plane in Chicago. I wasn't on the plane. But O.J., there was blood. There was thing on a thing. There was another thing. There was a house. You point out all those things. And he responds, well, then all you can do is, I'm not a judge. And by the way, an interview is not a courtroom. You don't go to jail.
Yeah, but it's the court of public opinion.
Correct. And that's my job is to draw you out and let him, the viewer, make the judgment. I don't make a judgment.
I have a different style than you do when I converse with people. And
you're your own style.
Correct, yes. And some find it obnoxious.
Are you obnoxious?
Yes, 100%.
That's see? So I would be fascinated with that. Were you an obnoxious kid?
Yes. I was just, but I don't want to make this about me, Larry.
No, but that's what makes it interesting.
But, okay,
do you enjoy being obnoxious?
No, it's just
do you like your reputation? No, because some guys made a career of being, Rush Limbaugh made a career of being a jerk.
Right. I don't know if I embrace it so much, but that's just kind of my DNA. But I was going to ask you, so I do certain things in interviews. Do you ever touch your guests?
No.
No. Yeah, that's,
shake hands, but
yeah.
Why would I have to touch them?
I hug people.
That's not obnoxious. That's nice.
Oh, well, some people. And then sometimes I get close. Like
that's in your face?
Well, not like in an aggressive way.
Do you kiss them?
No, I've never kissed anybody.
Okay, well, so far, when you get in their face, you get in their face like this?
No,
angry?
But it's more like this.
That's good.
That's okay?
That's your style. Again, you're not being false, are you?
No, that's just my
Every
regular...
great broadcaster I ever know, every great broadcaster, was the same off the air as on. In other words, if you talk to me, I'm doing a show every day on Hulu, an internet show. We have our own network on Aura TV. It's fascinating doing it. I was with William Shatner today, right?
Awesome. A great Canadian.
Great time with him. We had a riot, a lot of laughs, right? It was another wonderful day. It was just another great, look at the chance I get to meet these fabulous people. But I'm still myself. So when I was talking to William Shatner before we began, was the same as when the camera went on. Awesome. I go right to it, and I go to the moment. And I've never been afraid to ask a question. I have never in my life said to myself, is this a good question? Do you think they will like this? Don't think of that.
So you ask hard questions.
I trust my instinct. I ask every kind of question.
But sometimes
I don't like asking questions I know the answer to.
So even if it gets awkward, what you ask, you're okay with that?
Well, hey, it ain't brain surgery. Come on. In fact, there was a funny cartoon in the New Yorker of an operating table, and they're operating on a guy's brain. You see the skull, they're rolling, and one doctor leans to the other and says, "It ain't television." So when you think about that, everything what we're doing now, this talk will not change the world. And when you know it ain't going to change the world, it's whatever it is. You're in a learning process. A lot of luck is involved with success. Right place, right time. Ted Turner had to like me. He had to know my work and bring me to CNN. What if he didn't like me?
I guess, we would have seen you on another network.
Maybe. It's a subjective business. Left turn, right turn. What if the day when I was a kid and I went on New York and I was working at odd jobs, never went to college, and a friend of mine says, "Hey, that's James Sermons. He's an announcer at CBS." And I went over to him and said, "Hey, I'd like to be in radio. I'm 22 years old. I didn't go to college. What do you think I should do?" He said, "Go down to Miami. Because Miami they don't have a union. There's a lot of stations. Knock on doors, a lot of young guys. Give it a shot." I went to Miami. Suppose I didn't meet James Sermons. You never know.
Well, I'm happy to have met you now. And, you said that what we do won't change the world. But for this dude, you inspired me and changed something.
Thank you, Cabbie. And I will close this way. Get out of my house!
Thank you for listening to Cabbie Presents, the podcast.